And we are live. Welcome to the first 2019 edition of the Funvee Tailgate Playoff Edition. I, of course, am the G-Man, Jordy Cannell. Joining me, as always, or for the first time in 2019 and since before the holiday season, is my man, Matty D. How are you doing, my man?
I mean, I'm a little burnt out. It was a long 2 weeks. A lot of stuff going down, if you will, right?
A lot of stuff going down.
Yeah, the holidays, family, and a lot of football. Ton of football happening, including a really fun day. I mean, a New Year's Day, just bowl game after bowl game after bowl game, but also a very rare, incredibly wild Week 17 in the NFL, too.
Yeah, Greg and I were talking about that last week. Can you think of the last time that there were so many different scenarios that needed to be closed out on Week 17?
No, I can't. I mean, normally, you know, there's 2 or 3 games that really matter. In this case, the whole 4 o'clock slate was very important, and then the evening game was also incredibly important. How lucky is the NFL, by the way, the evening game got there? Yes. I thought that was, right? That was incredible to me. So, yeah, blown away.
Yeah, I'm glad they brought didn't they skip the evening game last year? They didn't do one because they wanted to have every single game at the same time.
I think
and they finally brought back the win in your in-game or not.
Yeah. But I mean, it's great. I mean, it's just that was perfect. It was a great game, too. Really,
it was a really good game.
I shouldn't say that. Honestly, the NFC was a little boring, and not in terms of what was had to be done, but the NFC was a little bit less nail-biting, if you will, than the AFC.
I guess so. I guess the Bears really laid the smackdown on the Vikings. That was the most important game.
The Eagles smoked the Redskins, which kind of there was no real suspense there. And the 49ers, the Rams blew up the 49ers. So I didn't feel like there was a ton of suspense in that regard.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the final score of the Rams 49ers game. I didn't realize that the 49ers scored that many points in the fourth quarter. I'm guessing they sat everybody, but
but Mullins, I mean that you know what, Kyle Shanahan, that team is a dangerous team. If you're the Seahawks and if you're the Rams, you got to pay attention because they've got some firepower. They can make some moves. You know, we already saw George Kittle tweet at Antonio Brown, and Garoppolo retweeted that. That's a big deal. I mean, they're not far away from being a very competitive team.
I totally agree.
Assuming you think Garoppolo's great.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of the BS thing of including Garoppolo on that list of the top 5 QB signings or all the top 5 paid QBs, and he was on there that the 49ers didn't make the playoffs. Like, he wasn't playing for 3/4 of the season. Like, slow your roll there a little bit. Yeah, it's not totally his fault.
But if you don't know, the stat that Jordy is discussing here is the top 6 paid quarterbacks in the NFL.
6, that's what it was.
6, yeah. So you're Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, Garoppolo, Derek Carr. I think that's the 6, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Those
Isn't
6.
Stafford up there?
Did I say? Okay, yeah. I think I'm going to – anyway. So I think, did I say him? Anyway, regardless, the top 6 paid quarterbacks, average annual salary, did not make the playoffs this year. And that's not a great, hey, you can't. I think Rodgers. See, to me though, you're right because like Rodgers was injured. And to me, I know he wasn't a whole season, but he clearly was affected by the injury. So Rodgers and Garoppolo, I give a free pass, but the rest of the franchises have to kind of look in the mirror and say, wait a second. Why are we paying Matt Ryan or Matt Stafford or Kirk Cousins this much money if they can't even make the playoffs? I mean, it's a huge deal, and it sucks up their cap space and causes them to have issues across the board. And it's why there was a big article written on why a team should possibly trade their young quarterback, like the idea of trading Jared Goff. If you think Sean McVay is the guy and not Goff, then trade Goff and draft another young guy because that rookie contract is so important in the NFL.
Yeah, and there's something to be said of what the Redskins were able to like pull out with Kirk Cousins for as long as they did, and they dodged that bullet. They unfortunately also lost Alex Smith. So, a really weird predicament that you're in. I mean, the Bears might find themselves in that sort of predicament if, Trubisky continues to develop. And I guess this year might start to put a little bit of a resume together, I guess would be the right word. But yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting thought there. And I know we're going to dive deep into the Bears because they're playing the Eagles. But yeah, I thought it was, everything too with what's going on with the Steelers and that whole scenario. I know you mentioned Kittle tweeting at Antonio Brown, who, by the way, we found out was on The Masked Singer. What a weekend it was for the Steelers. Or I guess week plus. New Year's kind of throws it all into a weird little loop there of a 5-day weekend. But holy shit.
Yeah.
They missed the playoffs for the first time in 9 years. Was the last time they missed the playoffs? 2010?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think yes. I think you're right. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's nuts to think about. And you think about like the Jets had Mark Sanchez. They're making the playoffs then. That's when they lost to 2010, I think the Steelers, the 2009-10 season maybe, because 2010 was when the Steelers lost to the Packers. So maybe one of those years. Somewhere it might be it's been a while though since the Steelers haven't made the playoffs. I really thought that the Browns were going to pull that out against the Ravens, and they nearly did. They lost by 2 points. Baker Mayfield really putting a stamp on the end of this year. Good for the Ravens though to not demoralize their franchise because it would have been the second year in a row that they blew it on week 17, where they just needed to win against a team that was not playing for anything, and they were in.
Yeah. I was very torn on this one because I really like seeing the Browns have any kind of success like that. I can't. I can't stress that enough. That being
Put
said,
someone else in the bottom of the basement. Let's make fun of another team for 20 years.
That being said, I thought the Ravens deserved it, and you know what? And I don't hate the Steelers. I really don't. But they've had a lot of run. They got knocked out a little bit this year, so they need to figure it out. But the Ravens deserve it. To me, the Ravens they arguably have they're a top 3 defense in the NFL. Some would consider them the best defense. The Bears are up there with them. But they're a really good team. And they're going to pose a problem early. And I don't want to get too deep into it yet. But they're going to pose a problem early in the playoffs. And we're going to talk about that matchup with the Los Angeles Chargers shortly. But wild coaching carousel so far.
Yes.
8?
Absolutely.
8 vacancies total. A couple happened a little earlier. What did you my biggest surprise was I'm torn here. To me, it was either Adam Gase getting fired from the Dolphins or Steve Wilkes of the Arizona Cardinals, who's a first-year head coach, which I find to be incredibly that just shows to me a bad front office and a bad organization. To fire a coach after one season who didn't do anything drastically wrong, how is that fair? Can't even get his own players in there.
He was given a pretty banged up team this year where they never really could get it going. A team that you really had to wonder what the hell was going on because they could not, the Cardinals, I'm saying, couldn't really do anything. It was a real island of misfit toys type of scenario. They looked like they had a non-existent offense. Then they get Josh Rosen in there when they didn't want to get him in so quickly.
Right.
Mine's probably going to be Adam Gase just because he was such a hot commodity when he first came out from the Bears. And I feel like he's going to be now. I feel like he'll get scooped up pretty quickly, maybe even by the Cardinals, and he becomes the QB whisperer for Josh Rosen. But that's probably my biggest one. But yeah, definitely a really interesting start to the carousel.
Right.
The Browns.
By the way, let me tell you some that were long overdue. Yeah, I think the one that Marvin Lewis, incredible. How he went that long without a playoff victory. I'm not talking a Super Bowl, but was 15 years without a playoff victory? Are you serious?
Yeah, 2003. I guess also they hadn't made the playoffs in so long since before him. Maybe that's the reason.
I get that, and you know what? But I will tell you this though: the one thing you have to realize there is that the owner Mike Brown, right? No, Mike Brown, Paul Brown, Mike
Paul
Brown,
Brown.
Paul Brown.
Paul Brown.
He's very old school, to an extent where they don't really have all the resources that a lot of other teams have as well, which I think is a shame.
Okay.
And so that's kind of why his loyalty goes on. They, by the way, the Bengals, who, really, to me, I don't even know if they're that bad of a coaching spot to land with all the talent that you think. I mean, they were second place in the AFC. It's like halfway through the season. They had a good open year. They've got a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. You think of Joe Mixon, you think of AJ Green, you think of a good defense, an underrated defense, if you will. I know Andy Dalton hasn't maybe proven how great he is, but still, I mean, I'm a little surprised in that case.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, like you said, it was kind of a long time coming to see him get, taken out with everything. But yeah, I would agree with that sentiment, though, that they're, in a good spot if they get maybe one or two guys defensively and bring in maybe a guy with that kind of mind. I mean, would you think Todd Bowles, do you think he'll get another job, or do you think, I kind of see him maybe being a good fit for this team?
Yeah, I was going to tell you that. So that's a great point you make there. I think the one thing, well, here's my concern, and I'm going to get to Bowles in just a second because I like him. The Browns have already requested an interview with the Bengals, with Hugh Jackson. I have a feeling that he might not be hired there.
Yikes.
I don't understand it. Nothing against Hugh. I just don't think that's the right decision for this team. I think they could use an influence of a youthful personality. I don't necessarily hate Todd Bowles because I think he's got some good fire. I think he got a short stick with the Jets. And a little bit of victim of his first year's success. When they went 10-6 that first year.
Yeah, I think if he makes the playoffs that first year, I think he gets a longer leash.
Yeah.
You don't remember that's when they had to go beat the Bills with Rex Ryan, and Rex Ryan beat them.
Right. I have heard that Vance Joseph may be interviewing there, which I understand. Okay. The other guy that's getting a lot of press is Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, coming out of that Andy Reid coaching tree, which you can see the success that they've had with Doug Peterson here and others. It makes a lot of sense to me as well. The other one that I don't know if I love is the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, is going to get an interview with the Bengals. I don't understand that one.
Interesting.
Although you could argue that the issue with the Buccaneers, they produce a ton of yards and points on offense. Vincent turns the ball over, and their defense struggles. Maybe that's why he's getting a lot of love. I actually think if I'm the Bengals, I want that youth. I like Bieniemy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator, a lot for that position.
Yeah, okay. I like that.
Because I think they need that influence of youth. The guy that I got to tell you, and I'm going to jump on another young guy here, in particular, whether it's for the Jets, really any team, I love Cliff Kingsbury, who just signed out as offensive coordinator.
As soon as you said young guy, my eyes got so wide. I'm pumped that he's getting interviews. And it's the ultimate, Kaiser Soze. He gets hired as basically a consultant for USC, and becomes this. We need to grab him before anyone else does. And I love what he might be able to bring to the NFL, especially with the Jets and with a guy like Darnold.
Yeah, I could not agree with that one more. I think he would be. Look, here's the thing: if you're the Jets, right? I'll tell even the Bengals, but really the Jets, because you have a young quarterback. Let's get that mind meld going, if you will, and it makes sense, right? Because USC, that Darnold was just there. I know he's not really done a lot there because he just got fired, but I tell you, I want a young guy. I'm all in on the McVay train. I'm not even young. Creative. That's my concern with a Hugh Jackson or a Todd Bowles or so Adam Gase, some of that would be exciting for me. I'm interested to see where he goes. He might make a lot of sense with Denver. He had Peyton Manning was his guy in Denver. Right, I'm right. Yeah, Peyton Manning was his guy in Denver, if I believe correctly. So I'd like to see him go somewhere. He'd make a lot of sense in Denver. Not hearing a ton of noise, by the way, out of Denver. Do you think
that's actually a really
because
good call.
Do you think that's because of the quarterback situation?
It might be. It's definitely a weird scenario going on up there. Yeah, I don't know. Denver's a really interesting story because you had, I don't know if there was hype surrounding them, but you thought, maybe they could sneak in to a wild card spot. You didn't know the Chargers were going to be this good coming in. A lot of people thought like, oh, they're super young. They're going to be great. Like, oh, we've been saying this for years. Is this really the year it's going to happen? And it was the year that it was going to happen. So a lot of people thought the Broncos were right there waiting to scoop up a couple, maybe go 8-8, maybe go 9-7 and do it. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of what's happening in Denver. Yeah, I don't know. Where do you think they can go?
Well, I guess the thing is that when they bring in a coach, they have to take a look at whether or not they think Case Keenum is the answer. I'm not sure Denver is as strong of a team top to bottom as people may think.
Yeah, they're definitely. There's been attrition, I would say that.
Right. I mean, you look offensively. Yeah, you really like. I think Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman. It was really supposed to be the guy this year. He struggled, but not struggled necessarily. But Lindsay was great. Other than that, offensively, Emmanuel Sanders is another year older. I don't know if we saw enough from Cortland Sutton and Deshaun Hamilton. Their offensive line is not particularly great, and it's aging. Defensively, yeah, you like Nick Chubb and you like Von Miller. Other than that, old. And even Von Miller's getting up there in age. So as a location, if I'm ranking locations, I don't know if Denver is super high. Also because John Elway, I think the shine is rubbed off. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I struggle. I don't know what the right fit is there, but I think they have to think about going quarterback, and they may have to consider moving up.
Yeah, I like the stay woke. That's John Elway doesn't want a quarterback that could be better than him. Quick cleaning up. You did say Nick Chubb, Bradley Chubb.
Nick Chubb. Oh shoot, I'm stuck. Yeah, that's
all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
Just so that we don't get blown up there. But no. I really like that theory that he doesn't want anybody that's better than him. But I don't know. I mean, you could move up. You could use some of the assets that you got for Demaryius Thomas, for instance, or anything. You don't want to mortgage the future or anything. I think that's the last thing you want to do with kind of being the skeleton of where you were a couple years ago when you were a perennial playoff contender. That's you really don't want to hemorrhage yourself.
As we wrap up this exercise of coaching vacancies, I want you to give me – so there's 8 coaching vacancies, okay? I have a list of where I think – like if I was a coach, where I'd want to go first.
Power rank the open jobs?
Mm-hmm. Now, I can power rank the whole thing if you want me to. I don't want to put you on the spot because this is just happening right now as we talk. So I guess my question is, give me your top, no particular order, top 3 vacancies if you were a potential head coach.
I go Browns was one of them. I don't know if that's the one, but that's up there. I might.
Let me do this. Let me help you. I'm going to go through the list very quickly here, just so you know all the teams, okay? So you mentioned the Browns, right? We talked about the Broncos.
Probably the Bengals, another one. I'd probably say Browns and Bengals are 2.
Okay.
It's tough because then you have Broncos, Packers, Dolphins, Cardinals, and who am I missing?
So Browns, Packers, Broncos, Cardinals, Dolphins, Cincinnati, Buccaneers, and Jets are the 2 you're missing.
Oh, Buccaneers and Jets. I might throw the Jets as the 3rd. I think they have. Their defense is pretty good. Yeah,
I would tell you the one thing with the Jets. If you believe in Sam Darnold, the Jets are.
That's a very good point.
Spot. Yep. I would tell you the Browns. I will tell you right now, the Browns are number 1 in my book.
Yeah, absolutely, 1,000%.
The only hard part with the Browns is there is an expectation, right? Before there wasn't, but even when they fired Hugh Jackson, there wasn't an expectation. Now there just is an expectation to win. I really think that. I think I'm not as high on Cincinnati because of the ownership. That's the really hard part for me. And Mike Brown just doesn't spend a lot of money there. I like the Jets job as a top 3 for me. I'm really struggling on the 4th. I'm actually between the Buccaneers and the Packers on the 4th.
Okay.
And I'm going to go Packers simply because I think the division down south is better than the division in the north, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I was going to say the Packers, I feel like, are a little bit more on a down trajectory, and the Bucs, even the right next couple steps, could start to veer back upwards.
Right. Now, let me ask you this question. So there's your top 3. Is there like 1 or 2 teams that you're like, ooh, no interest in? Like if you were a head coach? Like let's say you're Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
You've had the experience, right? Is there 1 or 2 teams you're like, no, I'm not having that? Or do you feel like all these openings are pretty decent?
I feel
so, and I think
we were just talking about the Broncos. I feel like they're probably my lowest.
Okay.
Just because that's one where I feel like there's more work to do, and you probably have, unless you're an established guy like Mike McCarthy could come in there and they give him, hey, we'll give you a couple years to figure this out. I know, the Packers didn't really deal with free agency that often, but give him a couple years, see what he can do, and see if he has a quarterback that he wants to try to bring in, or if he can do something with Keenum. Arizona, I feel like, isn't as bad as I'm thinking it is. That's why I'm not.
Well, Arizona has a ton of really good individual contributors, right? You think of Patrick Peterson, Chandler Jones, David Johnson. There's holes, obviously, but I mean, I don't know if they're just a weird team, but I don't think they're that. Yeah, I don't know. I think the one to me that, this is a team that I thought it's the Dolphins.
The Dolphins is I don't know.
Yeah.
Label.
By the way, I believe, and it might be the past 10 years or 15 years, they are the epitome of mediocrity. I think the past 10 years, they have either gone, they've gone somewhere between 10-6 and 6-10 over the past decade. Like, they're never higher than that, and they're never lower. They're just always kind of in that mediocrity point. Right. They just miss the playoffs every year, and no one talks about it. But their ownership, Stephen Ross on there isn't particularly stable. They don't have a franchise quarterback, you don't think. I just think there's a lot that's not to love about the Dolphins. So I think the Dolphins, and then the Broncos, I think it's expectations with the Broncos that scares me, right? That's a great fan base. They expect a winner, and they've had winners for a long time out there. I think that's maybe why I think that position's not that great. But, yeah.
Yeah, so just to follow up with your thought or your fact on the Dolphins, since 2003, which I want to think, if maybe the last couple years of Dan Marino, the Dolphins have been between 6 wins and 10 wins in all but 3 seasons. 2004, they went 4-12. 2007, they went 1-15. And in 2008, the next year, they went 11-5 and lost in the first round of the playoffs. They've only made the playoffs one other time in 2016, where they lost to the Steelers in the first round. And that was Adam Gase's first year. But yeah, since then, they've had Nick Saban as a coach for 2 years. They went and coached Alabama. They had Cam Cameron, Tony Sparano, excuse me. Joe Philbin, Dan Campbell for half a season with his giant ass triceps, right? Giant guns.
I love him.
And then Adam Gase for 3 years.
Yeah. That's incredible. 2003. Oh my God.
Yeah. They went 10-6 that year, and prior to that, they had not finished lower than 8-8 since 1988.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And 1988, they went 6-10. Before that, that streak continues of above 500 or better until 1976.
Jeez.
Which was, again, one bad year. Then they had the undefeated season in there. They had a couple Super Bowls. They really have a long franchise history of not finishing below 500.
They're a very proud franchise. They're they're like going to have to go do a rebuild, aren't they? I mean, they don't have.
They have to. They have
Right.
to.
Right. I mean, they got a couple defenders, but I mean, this is going to be a 3 or 4 year process. So that's why I hope they bring in the right coach. Very proud franchise. Obviously, that entire division, though, has really been hampered by the Brady Belichick dynasty. You know, when you look back at the past decade plus, 15 years, those two teams dominate. Those two guys, that team dominates the division. So I think a lot of it does come that way.
Yeah, 08 when they went 11-5. That's the year that Brady tore his ACL in week 1.
Yeah, right. So I mean, they went 11 and 5. Didn't they? They went. Yeah, they said they went 11 and 5 that year.
Division. Yeah.
No. That was it. They didn't win the division. They went 11 and 5 and didn't make the playoffs.
No, I'm looking at it now. I have their list of seasons up.
Really?
Yeah, the Patriots went I think 10-6 with Matt Castle and did not make the playoffs.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Disregard. Okay, got you. Cool. All right. Well, look, let's move from teams that aren't playing to the teams that are.
Before we do that,
go ahead. Oh, go
what
ahead.
What team do you want to be on Hard Knocks?
Oh, well, it can't be one of these teams, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I kind of want the Giants if Eli's coming back.
Okay. All right. Well, a couple things. Can the Raiders be on it?
I think they can. I have seen a number. They're listed as a team, so yes, they can be on it.
I
want them to be in this when they get Hard Knocks.
I know, so I think that's probably why they would hold off. I would really like if not the Raiders, I think San Francisco would be fascinating.
Yeah, that's probably the logical choice.
Yeah, and I think they're eligible for it, so I'm definitely fine with San Francisco. If not San Fran, you mentioned the Giants, because I hate the Giants. If not the Giants, I wish the Jaguars would take it, but that might be too much for TV with all the infighting they're going to have. I guess that's right. I guess that really. Or the Lions. I'd love to just hear more about Matt Patricia in general.
I feel like he'd be sweating the whole time.
I know, right?
All those cameras in front of him.
But I got to tell you, I think the 49ers make a ton of sense. We'll see if it happens, but I think that's where they go.
Yeah, that's probably the answer. But yeah, playoffs. Let's talk about it. Wildcard weekend might be one of the more sneakily fun weekends of football because you get 4 straight football games where anything really can happen. Mm-hmm. You have a number of teams that have won 10 games or better, really just one that didn't, the Eagles. You have a 12-4 team visiting a 10-6 team, and that game is a less than 3-point spread. Yep. You have a team in Dallas that's looking to prove, Jason Garrett mainly, that he, has something, he can win a playoff game, that he can do this. By the way, we didn't talk about this with week 17. Really dumb decision of him playing all of his players, but we'll talk about that when we get to their game. But the first game, always the ever popular in-division wildcard weekend matchup. I love when this ends up working out. And as is tradition, the Houston Texans are playing in the Saturday afternoon game against their divisional opponent, the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
What are your immediate thoughts coming into this game?
Well, this is always, there's nothing they can do about it, but it's always a little bit unfair, right? Mostly because we don't get a matchup. We're getting a matchup we've already seen.
Yeah.
But I think if you're the Texans, how unlucky do you get here? Because this is not a hot team. Although I don't want to trash this team. This is a hot quarterback who looks really good right now. That as good as Deshaun Watson has played all year, boy, Andrew Luck has looked like the old Andrew Luck, if you will.
Yes.
So, and I wasn't necessarily as impressed as I thought with the Texans when they came to visit the Eagles. I know it was Nick Foles, and I know that we were really needed the game, but I was unimpressed with their defense, and I thought you could basically, because their running game has struggled, you could really go after this Texans team. So, yeah, I don't know. I will see, but I will. That's a tight line for a division winner. I like the Colts in this game.
Yeah, I hate to agree. I like having more arguments with you on this, but I like the Colts as well. I think Andrew Luck is coming in white hot coming down the stretch. It's worth noting, too, that the last time these two teams met was at the beginning of December, where in the same scenario in Houston, the Colts did pull it out 24-21, and the Colts just kept going from there. Aside from really looking like they might screw this up against the Giants in Week 16, they've been cruising. And really, both the Texans and the Colts, really in the second half of the season, have been en fuego and have had one weird come down to earth but stay in heaven afterwards game. The Colts losing that weird 6-0 game in Jacksonville after riding the seat of their pants for a couple games, but really throwing a lot of points up on the board. And the Texans obviously losing to the Eagles and prior to that losing to the Colts. But before that, I mean, if either one of those games turn around, they're 12-4. They probably have a bye after going 0-3, and losing to the Giants, mind you, at home.
I know. But here is the most shocking thing about this. If the Texans lose, I think they should fire Bill O'Brien.
Think so? Do what the Titans did?
I think they've maxed out with him at this point. If they can't get by with this current iteration, he's been there for a while, and he keeps getting stuck in these playoff games. Like, this is a huge game for them at home. I think Bill O'Brien could be playing for his job a little bit here. They can't afford to lose to a Colts team that had a top 5 pick last year in the draft. Like, I just personally, and I like Bill O'Brien. I think he's a good coach, but at some point, you feel like you've maxed out what your team can do under a guy. You got to make a move.
Yeah, at some point you have to think: did the NFC or the AFC South fall into a kind of shittier version of the AFC East? Because the Texans, for a while, especially when Andrew Luck couldn't get healthy, they found themselves in this game, the Saturday afternoon game, for a while, and
over and over again, and they were just kind of
over and over, and they were, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, but they found themselves as almost the Notre Dame of, did they really belong here?
Right, and I think they're still trying to prove that, though.
Yeah,
because they yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would tell you, I think there's some concern, and if I'm a Houston fan, this is just a big game. You have to take a look at, because when you take a look at who they beat, okay,
yeah,
they do beat the Colts, who are a playoff team, and they beat the Cowboys. Other than that, in their winning streak, no other playoff teams. So
that's actually a really good point.
When you look, they struggled last year because of Watson's injury. They didn't have a great schedule to play against. So when they did beat the 2 playoff teams. I can't discredit that, but
sure.
But they lose to the Patriots, they lose to the Eagles, and they lose to the Colts. So how good is this team? Because that run was against a bunch of teams who aren't in the playoffs. So that's my concern with them too. And you see them facing against an Eagles team late in the season who needs it, and a Colts team who needed it, and they lost, and they nearly lost to the Jets the week in between that. They almost went on a 3-game losing streak. Now they beat the Jaguars, but the Jaguars were terrible. So I guess that's why I'm a little concerned about the Texans coming into this game.
Yeah, there's been more inconsistency, and kind of to follow up, because I didn't give a ton of reasons, I just went through a schedule. The Colts defense actually ranks higher in terms of net yards allowed. They let up less net yards. They have a better passing defense than Houston does. A lot of people talk about Houston's rush defense. It is almost 20 yards better per game and almost the best in the NFL. Only the Saints and Bears have better rush defenses than Houston does. So I would expect Andrew Luck to want the ball, to get all of his guys, T.Y. Hilton especially, involved. And that Houston defense, they let up over 260 yards a game, which if you look at any top-ranked defense, they are up there in terms of passing yards allowed. So I think you're absolutely right to point out how good Andrew Luck has been down the stretch, because he and T.Y. Hilton, I think T.Y. Hilton's the X factor, but I think Andrew Luck is I think he's going to get it done, put the team on his back and show, hey, 2014 wasn't a fluke when we made the AFC Championship game.
Yeah, right. No, I agree with that 100%. And it makes him a great Cinderella story. He is my comeback player of the year over J.J. Watt.
I totally agree.
But I will say this. The Texans' recipe with that pass rush, if those big guys can get it going, Watt, Clowney, Merciless, they have the goods. I just don't know if they're going to be able to put it all together.
Yep.
Now that leads us right into the Saturday evening game, 8:15. The kind of red hot Seattle Seahawks visit Jerry World. Cowboys are a 2-point favorite in this game, so it's almost a toss-up, if you will.
Yep.
Seahawks did a lot of good things late in the year. Other than a surprising loss at the 49ers, which is a divisional game, I mean, they really have had a lot of success late, including that great win against the Chiefs. Although somehow I still feel like they're coming in a little underrated in this game.
Yeah, it's interesting because their offense has been incredibly dynamic. Chris Carson had a huge year. You come in, nobody was really quite sure to think of him. I mean, and remember, too, this team has kept the Rams to a grand total between two losses of 7 points behind. They lost 31-30 or 33-31 at home and then 36-31 in LA. And we'll talk about the Rams next week, but the Coliseum, not one of the best places to play in the playoffs. The Seahawks, though, that 49ers game you mentioned in division on the road, you got to think, too, after that absolute shellacking, I know it's only 21-7, but the beat down that they put down in Minnesota, where it looked like the Vikings were just going to curl over and give up on 2018 as it was at the start of December. It might have just been a come down moment. And as you mentioned, the big win against the Chiefs, they beat the Cardinals. They had to do what they had to do. In their defense, we can't discount this. They've lost how many different guys throughout the years? Richard Sherman's gone. He's in San Francisco. Their defense has been pretty good this year. Granted, in terms of playoff teams, the amount of points and yards that they've allowed are kind of in the middle of the pack in terms of the NFL. They rank 16th in terms of playoff teams, right in there. Mm-hmm. Now, what concerns me mainly, though, on those numbers is their rushing yards that they allow, which I think bodes really well for Zeke.
It's
I think
surprising,
that's part of why.
By the way.
Yeah.
Because,
how much they've let up?
Well, because of Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright there, you would think with those kind of guys, and they got a little beat up in the defensive line, but a Jaron Reed is quite good, a Freddie Clark. It's a little surprising they're that low.
Yeah. Yeah, they've let up 113 yards a game, which a couple other teams in that ballpark, the San Francisco 49ers, the Tennessee Titans, the Minnesota Vikings, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Buffalo Bills. So the Denver Broncos, again, another surprising team considering their linebackers. The LA Rams of teams. Washington, which is actually really surprising considering what top-rate ranked running backs have done against them. But yeah, I think unfortunately, I think it does bode well for the Cowboys. I do like that 2-point spread. Obviously they're getting the favorite. I forget what the magic number is for being at home in the playoffs. I think it's 5 points. You get a little bonus on. So in theory, neutral site, Seahawks would have an edge, but I don't know. Something about Zeke is telling me that I think the Cowboys do have an edge here. Sadly, I don't love picking the Cowboys, but I think they have the edge.
Well, here's one of the many things I look at with this. First of all, you got to be a little impressed with Russell Wilson. He has played. Yes. He's the only quarterback to play. And because guys come in and out of games for various reasons. Apparently, I read this. He's the only quarterback to play every single offensive snap for his team this year. He has been on the field for every snap. Now, Matt, what about Brady? Well, Brady and Mahomes, they stepped off the field when it was late in games. So it's kind of a wacky stat. But once again, he's underrated. He comes in again. Somehow he's underrated again. I know that I hate the Cowboys, so this makes it easy for me to say, but something about the Cowboys with some of their really bad losses that they had throughout the year, like, do they throw up a dud in this game? Do they really struggle to score? Like, if Bobby Wagner if they just stack the box, can Dak get it done?
That's a good point. If you stack the box, you make Dak Prescott beat you. To put it this way, Matt, they acquired Amari Cooper in what week? Week 5 or 6?
Yeah, no, I think it was 6 or 7. No, it was
6 or 7.
Regardless,
he's their leading receiving.
Yeah, right. It was more like midway through the season. Here's what I'll tell you. I'm taking the Seahawks. I think this team is dangerous. I think they're better than everyone realizes. I picked them at the beginning of the year to make the playoffs, and they did. I like that. I like that enough. And if Shaquille Griffin, who's going to match up with the former UCF corner, is going to match up with Cooper, I think this team can get it done. I like the Seahawks in this one to upset the Cowboys and move on to face off against probably most likely. Well, it could be. Well, we'll get there. We don't want to take
it. Depends. Yeah. They are completely out of their control in terms of who wins that game.
Yeah. That takes us to Sunday.
Yes.
So far, we both took the Colts. You took the Cowboys. I took the Seahawks. Sunday.
Which means the Colts would go play the Chiefs, by the way, because that is a 3-6 matchup.
The Chargers.
No, it's not. It's all, these are both 4-5 games. Excuse me.
Right. So they would play. Depends. It depends. We'll get there. So Chargers Ravens. A rematch.
Yes. Because there's actually a lot of rematches in this. Cowboys and Seahawks played in week 3.
Yep.
Or the Cowboys and Seahawks, excuse me. Chargers Ravens played what in November?
Say again?
The Chargers and Ravens played when in November?
Oh yeah, week 16.
Oh, it's week 16. Holy shit!
Yep.
Wow,
in a game that both teams had to have after the Chargers' really epic win against the Chiefs, 29-28. They come in and lay a real dud at home against the Ravens, who traveled across the country. Ravens beat them 22-10. The real story of that game, the Ravens defense completely shutting down the Chargers offense. I mean, like embarrassingly shutting it down. Phillip Rivers had 181 yards passing and 2 interceptions.
No.
But so now the Chargers have to return the favor. Fly all the way out to the East Coast, head to Baltimore, all right, against a very great Baltimore defense. And by the way, Lamar Jackson, who has the most rushing attempts by a quarterback in a single season, he didn't start until week 11. Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew it was somewhere around then. And what, they've been 6-1 with him?
Yeah, they've been incredible with him.
Yeah.
Incredible. By the way, he's rushed the ball 147 times this year.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and he's 212 pounds. So we I don't want to get into that discussion. That's going to come. But this game is full of intrigue because both of these teams, the number 1 and number 2 seeds, don't want to see, right?
Yes.
I mean, can we agree on that?
Yes.
Assuming our predictions, it's going to be the Patriots that will play. Am I right?
Yeah. The Chargers are the. This is the 5-4 game. So this is the one that doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, the Patriots are going to have.
I'm getting myself all tied up. I'm sorry, America.
You're fine.
End the match.
The Chargers and Ravens are going to face the Patriots. These, to me, I actually think the two teams here are the 2 biggest threats to the Patriots, and I'm including the Chiefs in that discussion because both of them have, like, the Chargers have a great offense and a underrated defense. The Ravens have a fantastic defense and a difficult offense to prepare for, in particular in a short week. Not that it's a short week, but in a week. It's not like you get a break to study the film on Lamar Jackson. He is going to cause problems in his rookie year against the Patriots. So whoever comes out of this game has a real chance, to me, to keep moving forward. I think this is going to be I think this is the best matchup of the weekend.
I was going to say, I think this is the game of the weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, and
is Phillip Rivers? Is this his? I mean, he's old. He's like 38, I think, right?
Yeah, you got to think his wife's pregnant with another kid.
Mhm.
You got to think that he's starting to come around on retirement.
Right.
As good as the Baltimore defense is and what they've been able to do. Well, first, Matt, I got to give you my matchup. I got to give you the matchup you got to watch out for. It's Hunter Henry against Ed Reed. This is the matchup I think really got to keep an eye out on.
Now, wait. Well, first of all, you're thinking of Derek Johnson, but I still like it.
Well, Derek Johnson doesn't play on the Ravens.
I know what you're doing.
But
Wait.
On the Ravens.
Wait. But this is important. Do you know that Hunter Henry is going to play in this game?
Oh, he is playing?
Yes. This is wild. This is what seriously. He tore his ACL in May, and they think
as of yesterday, he was out.
No, he is playing 6 to 60. They're hoping to get him close to 60 to 70 sacks. I mean snaps.
ESPN, update your injury report.
I told So they've been having him play. So he'll be back. You got Melvin Gordon back.
Yeah.
I know the Chargers. The shine of the Chargers wore off a little bit because of that loss to the Ravens. Okay, to the Ravens late in the year. I love this Chargers team. I love their moxie.
I do too.
And I'm a big John Harbaugh guy. I think the Chargers still get this done in Baltimore, upset the Ravens, and move on for an epic matchup with the Patriots in Foxborough.
Yeah, that's assuming that that the Colts winning holds.
Yes. Either way, whether the Chargers play the Colts or the Chiefs, it's going to be. The Patriots or the Chiefs. It's going to be a fantastic matchup.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan. I think this is going to be the best game of the weekend. But I like Phillip Rivers. I think there's a magic there with him right now. He's got a great cast around him and a better defense than you realize.
Yeah.
Are you agreeing with me? Go ahead.
No, I do have the Chargers winning as well. They've been a fantastic road team.
Yes.
Not so good at home, but great on the road. And what I was going to ask you, on this same note, both the Rams and the Chargers, I'm getting up the numbers now.
Okay.
Have been better on the road. Chargers 7-1 away from their soccer stadium, and the Rams, granted they were 7-1 at the Coliseum, but we went over that one loss they had. The Rams are 6-2, still very good. The only team better away from home, surprisingly, is the New Orleans Saints, who had a 6-2 record at the Superdome. But we'll go over it next week of home games in LA. But I think the Chargers dangerous throughout the rest of the playoffs. And I think I don't want to say it's more than a touchdown, but I do like them. If you flip the line, I might still take them -2.5.
No, I agree. I like I said, I'm with you there. I like that about a touchdown game here. They'll figure out a way to make Lamar Jackson beat him with his arm, and I don't know if he can yet.
Exactly. That's probably the biggest part of it. I wouldn't discount what the Ravens defense does to Melvin Gordon, but we've seen Phillip Rivers a number of times go all Phillip Rivers and use his arm to beat teams because he, as his Texas bolo tie shows you, he is a gunslinger.
Right. No, I definitely agree there. This leads us to our last game of the weekend. The 4:40 Sunday afternoon showdown.
On NBC.
Two great cities coming together here.
Oh, yeah. Personal matchup for me. My mom being from Chicago, all my cousins being Bears fans on that side of the family. Eagles and the Bears. Eagles coming in as underdogs once again. Matt, what are your initial thoughts coming into this?
Is it a little disrespectful that Vegas has the Eagles with the worst odds to win the Super Bowl? I find that to be disrespectful. You honestly think that the Colts have a better chance to win the Super Bowl than the Eagles?
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to say in the NFC, no. I'd say the Colts probably don't.
I mean, do you trust Dak Prescott? But I don't know. I thought that was a little disrespectful.
I think it's probably because of the fact that if the Eagles win, they have to go to New Orleans, a team that they, as we may remember, however many weeks ago now, got absolutely shelled in the Superdome. So that's probably part of it, is that they're doing the compound math of at least their next opponent.
Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to shell a team twice, unless you're the Patriots and you're playing one of your AFC East opponents. It's hard to shell a team twice. I think this game. I would take the under.
Yeah, over under set at 41. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Not by much, but lowest of the weekend. I think it's going to be a slugfest. I think with the Eagles' pass rush humming more so the last few weeks, and the Bears having some injury issues at wide receiver.
Yeah, so they had Anthony Miller, who's had a banged up shoulder all week. He went down in week 17. And is he playing? Is he I'm pulling it up now. Is he questionable for this weekend?
I don't know. Let me take a look here.
I'm not trusting what ESPN has on theirs because after you tell me Hunter Henry's playing, he's not on here, and I feel like he should still be reported.
Yeah, but I know Allen Robinson, he kind of was held out for injury issues.
Yeah, I mean he missed like 4 or 5 games, and that's why Miller got onto the scene.
Right.
And I mean, they have a really interesting setup that they do. Obviously, they have Trey Burton, who he's had himself a nice season, kind of under the radar. I get kind of under the radar because of the Philly special in the Super Bowl. But yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, there's a number of factors too. I think the return of a lot of players, specifically Rasul Douglas, really seemed to spark the Eagles' defense, specifically their secondary, which has been questionable all season and not really being able to hold a lot. And I include the Texans game there. I do agree that the Bears' questionable running backs might make this more of a Trubisky's arm and Trubisky's legs, even having to beat the Eagles and see what their receivers, both tight ends and wideouts, do. The question really, as Eagles fans, does Big Dick Nick magic continue? Does that BDN energy, BDNE, does that continue? I would still think too of, do we get like a Darren Sproles and 10 years ago? Do we get one of those kind of games? Remember that when he was with the Chargers?
I do.
That mega game. I almost feel like that's part of how they almost have to spread it out. Granted, you're now bringing Khalil Mack in to try to punch the ball out,
right.
But Charles Tillman on plays like that, or come in on a crosser and try to pick the ball off. So there's a lot to worry there with what the Bears defense can bring to the table, which is why I agree with the under.
Yeah.
As I did all of last year, I'm not going to make a pick because I can't one way or the other. If you want to make a pick, I'll gladly let you. I will not be betting this. It's the only game I won't be betting. Even the under. I agree with the under is probably the safe way to go, but I'm not going to bet that because I didn't last year in the playoffs. And Juju guys, #Juju guys, keep that going.
So you know where my heart lies.
Yes.
I have a problem with one particular player, and I don't know how we're going to handle this particular player. And it is not Khalil Mack.
Okay.
It's
another member of the defense.
It is not a member of the defense.
Okay.
It is almost the offspring of Darren Sproles. Tariq Cohen terrifies me.
Tariq Cohen.
Who stays with him? Is a linebacker capable of sticking? Bradham can't touch him. I don't know if Hicks is going to be able to hang with him. Jenkins, as great of a player as Jenkins is, I don't know if he can stay with him. That leaves you with trying to maybe move a Maddox over to maybe cover him a little bit. But I think he is going to cause a huge issue. So if I was a betting man, I'd probably put my money on the Bears. There's a reason they're 12-4. And I hate to say it, but I got to tell you something. I'm not betting on this game because I don't know how you can bet against Nick Foles. And Chicago doesn't have a team full of guys who have been there. So, yes, Trey Burton has been there. I'll give you that. All right, there's a guy. Defensively, not really. Trevathan was on the Broncos for a number of years, so he's had some winning ways. Khalil Mack really hasn't. So to me, they don't have a ton of experience, which I don't want to overvalue experience, but I don't want to undervalue. That's important. Yes, to me, the Bears' defense is a problem, but I just think I can just see Cohen getting one or two of those ridiculous plays that he has. That's going to be a potential issue for me. I'm really concerned about that. Although I don't love this Bears offensive line, and if you can slow Trubisky down as a runner, because he's been very good as a runner, very good as a runner this year, underratedly good. You can slow him down, you can do some damage. So like I said, I'm definitely not betting against it, but it's going to be a long. I think it's going to be a long, bloody day, if you will, for both teams. Roquan Smith had 122 tackles from him. Did you know that? That's the former Georgia standout. He's a rookie. They just got some.
Yeah, he's had a great year.
Yep. Trevathan had 102 tackles. So yeah, very interesting to see what happens. And
the only matchup of the weekend that is not a rematch. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, that's right. Good point. By the way, Jason
the only thing that we have to go off of is the Eagles not doing that well against the Minnesota Vikings when they still looked like last year's Minnesota Vikings.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw what the Bears did to them twice, both at Soldier Field and up in US Bank Stadium. There's a couple other common opponents that the Bears lost to the Giants. Eagles beat the Giants twice. But I think you throw that out of the window. This is the playoffs. You really got to watch out of what this team's going to do and how I think they're secondary too. I think they could, if Foles has even a shaky start, I think they might jump all over him and, whatever balls they might throw any which way. I think that, Kyle Fuller might have a big game. The Bears defense really is going to be as collective as they're not even the X factor, because they're going to be the factor that determines, everything. It might, it's not 06 Bears. You might as well keep them out on the field and hope they get a defensive touchdown, but because their offense can do a lot, but you're going to have to watch out no matter where the Eagles are, even in the red zone, because not even a field goal is going to be guaranteed.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I agree. Like I said, oh man, I'm going to take the Bears. You take that. I don't want to.
Go no pick.
All right. I'll go no pick with you. It's just so when we keep going here, we can figure out who was better. So I will avoid picking as well, just for competition purposes. Okay.
Sure. All right. I like it. Just like Kirby.
Yes. Just like Kirby. Well, that
so we're not calling the game.
Right. That brings
maybe
us.
One
day. I wish. That brings us to the championship game.
Switching to college, doing a little reverse action because it is Monday night.
Yes.
College football playoff national championship game for the fourth year in a row, third time in the national championship, but for the fourth year in a row, Alabama and Clemson meeting in the playoffs. Alabama coming in as a 6-point favorite. First time all playoffs that we haven't had a double-digit spread. Matt, what are your thoughts coming into this game?
Well, these are the two teams we thought would be there, and these are the two teams that are there. And after watching the bowl games, these are clearly the two teams that deserve to be there. No other teams can bring to the table the college and professional talent that these two teams bring to the table. Clearly the best two coaches in college football. This is look, maybe you don't like it, but you have to respect it. I love it. I think it's another heavyweight bout. I can't wait. This game has so many lines, so many storylines, the quarterbacks, the defenses, the coaches. You have to be excited just to bear witness, in my opinion, to what we're about to watch, because no two programs have done it better. By the way, it's the first undefeated national championship game I just found out. Did you know that?
Didn't off the top of my head, but it makes sense.
Yeah, because every year that Alabama or Clemson's had a loss. Alabama opens up as 6-point favorites.
Yeah, and I think that's the right number. I think that's out of respect for the matchup we're going to get. Over-under set at 59.5, which is a number I love.
Yep.
Considering the points these guys can both put up. And, yeah, I really love this matchup. I think Travis Etienne, what Trevor Lawrence was able to do, and not having a freshman moment, as a lot of people thought, what Tua looked like in the playoffs, as we all probably thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
I think there's so much intrigue around this, every single matchup, and both defenses have been fantastic. Although I do think there's going to be some, just like in any college game, there's going to be some openings that are going to get completely exploited. And both teams have shown, granted, they're undefeated, but in some of their games, they've shown some sign of weakness. And I think their defenses, if they can pounce at the right time, not to be punny with a team that's a tiger, I think that's going to be the difference maker here. Because if you have something, remember the play before the walk-off in the national championship, Tua looked completely dummied when he got sacked. If you have something like that, or Trevor Lawrence shows a freshman moment, and one of the two defenses is able to take advantage of that, a defensive touchdown might be the difference maker in this.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something right now. Same thing with Kyler Murray that I'm going to say about Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't come close to facing a defense like Alabama's.
Oh, I totally agree.
You look down their schedule, no defense on their schedule in the ACC even scares you at all. Maybe Boston College. I mean, maybe. They played South Carolina, who had a down year. I think, to me, this is the big – and it's the same thing that happened with Oklahoma. If you're Dabo Swinney, you got to figure out how to not allow the first quarter to happen like it did for Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma scored 34. Alabama was on cruise control starting second quarter on. I mean, I wasn't scared at any point in that game for that Oklahoma team to come back. If they can get up, they're going to run you into the ground offensively, and they are loaded. So to me, I like Alabama. I'm going to tell you right now, I like Alabama already in this game, and I stress the fact that Trevor Lawrence has never seen a defense anywhere near Alabama's capabilities all season. That's what would scare me if I was a Tiger fan.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think 6 is the right number for Alabama. Okay. I think maybe 10 points might be the if I had to project a line.
And no Dexter Lawrence, by the way. He remains, so he cannot return.
Really out.
And you saw what Alabama did with their physicality. I mean, they said, hey, Oklahoma, welcome to big boy football. Alabama has like 4 wide receivers who are going to be drafted and 4 running backs who are going to be drafted. They're going to come at you all game. So I think that you better be nervous if you're Clemson in this one, in my opinion. We'll see what happens, but in my opinion.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. I think it's there's something to be said with what that Alabama basically was just they let Oklahoma come, make it closer, let them cover that spread or cover the plus 14. But yeah, I think you're right. These are the two teams that absolutely, if it's a BCS, nobody would be upset about this. There's been a lot of talk, especially with Georgia losing to Texas in the Sugar Bowl, of how to where do we go from here with the playoffs and blah 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 blah. I think that's certainly discussion for another time. But in the meanwhile, enjoy this game. In the meantime,
oh yes,
this game is going to be a ton of fun.
I got to tell you, it does to me. It doesn't matter if you are a college football fan, an NFL fan, a draft fan. This is giving you everything. There's 1,000 reasons to tune in here.
Imagine Dragons.
This is going to be wild. You've got top 5, top 10 first-round draft picks littering the field. I'll give you a couple guys off the beaten path, Jordy, to pay attention to.
I like
this
this
game. I'll start with Alabama, okay? You got to take a look at Najee Harris. Now, Damian Harris is their starter. Josh Jacobs gave you that great highlight of trucking that guy. Najee Harris is their best running back. 6.7 yards a carry, averaged the most out of any of their backs. I think he's the whole package. He's very good. You need to pay attention there. And I'm going to just name the 4 wide receivers. Everyone knows Jerry Jeudy. Waddle, Ruggs, and Irv Smith Jr. is a tight end, as well as Devonta Smith. These guys are incredibly good. It's going to be wild, but defensively for Alabama, everyone knows Quinnen Williams. They're great defensive linemen.
Yep.
Watch out for Deontay Thompson, their great defensive back, to cause Trevor Lawrence to have some second guessing, which is what you need to have him do. All right. So he's the guy to me to watch out for Alabama. He's a top 20 draft pick, probably at worst, if I had to guess.
Okay.
And so you mentioned Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Thompson's going to have his hands full with T. Higgins, the Clemson wide receiver, who follows right in the footsteps of Sammy Watkins, of Mike Williams, of DeAndre Hopkins as another amazingly good Clemson wide receiver.
Yep.
And then there's the 20-year senior Hunter Renfrow for them, who's been around forever. He's the guy that, if you don't know, a reason we laugh when we say his name, he's the guy that caught the touchdown pass from Deshaun Watson to win the national title 2 years ago, I think it is, right?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago. 2 years ago. Defensively, y'all know the defensive line, right? Farrell, Wilkins, Lawrence, Austin Bryant is the other guy who's probably going to have quite a bit of fun. But this defense has some serious what's the best way to put it? Serious bang for your buck elsewhere.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, watch out for A.J. Terrell, a corner of theirs. He's had a really good year, as well as Tanner. I think it's Muse, I believe, M-U-S-E, a safety for them that a lot of teams like as well. So do not sleep on this excellent Clemson defense, which is loaded really top to bottom for me. And they do a little bit of everything, the defense. That's the other thing to know. They've got the great defensive line. Everybody else kind of fills in, if you will. Great team. So I'm very excited all the way around.
Yeah. I am as well. Now, before we wrap things up, anything else we should know for the game? Anything else we should keep an eye out for?
Well, you should expect the same matchup next year. Trevor
you think
Lawrence
so? Because of how young everybody is?
Yes, Trevor Lawrence is a true freshman. He will be back. Tua Tagovailoa, whatever. I know his last name. No. I can say it. All right. Anyway, Tua is a true sophomore. He will be back. A combination of some kind of their skill position players will also return. These two teams may very well meet again. And T. Higgins is a sophomore. He might be back. So anyway, these guys, you're going to see these two teams probably right back in this position again. That's how loaded they still are in this case. So Be prepared to see the same group, the same two teams next year. Incredible.
Love it. I love it. And that I am being reminded that the night tonight that we are recording, January 3rd, is the anniversary of Tony Romo bobbling the point after.
Boy, does that make me happy.
And you want to know something, man? Tony Romo is finally making the Super Bowl this year.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's broadcasting it.
Really?
Well, yeah, it's on CBS.
There you go. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you didn't know it was on CBS? You haven't seen all the billion advertisements for it?
You're right.
Yeah. Because they talk about they have the Super Bowl, then they have March Madness, then they have the Masters, and now the PGA, now in May.
Yeah.
And I forget what else they have this year. That commercial that airs every commercial break, or bumper, official terms. Matt, what else is going on before we wrap things up? Anything else you want to mention to the people?
Well, I'd like to see our Philadelphia Flyers could do any better, as they sit very last place in the division. So we'll see there, but yeah.
Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid high up on the first round of fan voting.
That's
So
true. That's
good
true.
stuff.
The Sixers still need to
Phillies
make
just
some.
signed David Robertson. I wrote a
That
little
is
blog
correct
about
as
it on
well. I'm interested to see kind of where it goes from there. So, I mean, a lot is happening.
A lot is happening.
Particularly for Philly fans in the sports world. Also, just kind of pay attention to college basketball. It's going to start to ramp up here.
This is the time to really conference play is getting underway. Our Lehigh Mountain Hawks beat Lafayette in a little Patriot League opener last night. This is the time to start really paying attention to it, because this is when the men get separated from the boys. Because non-conference, you could go 13-1 and then go 1-17 in conference play and be completely out of it.
Couple undefeated teams left. You've got Michigan at number 2 right now, sitting undefeated with quality wins in the schedule. Currently playing Penn State, by the way. They're up 5 at half. Long game there. And then I mean, Duke's number 1, and we know that they're very good. So Duke's number 1. But watch out, by the way, for Virginia's undefeated. They're going to play Duke soon. But Nevada, 13-0. And really, they're a Houston team that's undefeated. But Nevada, to me, is the one. They have a legitimate opportunity to potentially run the table. And they have wins over Loyola Chicago, Arizona State, BYU. They don't play a ranked team left. They easily – and by the way, they were highly ranked coming into this year. They have a great twins by the last name of Martin that can play. Two twins. Watch out. They could go undefeated and go into the tournament as an undefeated team, which will be amazing for college basketball to see a team do that. They're already up to number 6. And with some of the attrition above them, they could easily be in the top 3, if not number 1 overall, if some of these teams begin to lose. So
it'd be really interesting to see how that all goes. Because obviously it's been the last couple of years have been, a little more we talked about it during the tournament last year, but it seemed like the mid-major spread was starting to widen a little bit. And it seems like it's starting to, at least this year, the gap is reclosing. At least from the real contenders. I know more and more mid-major teams make the tournament every year, but the real contenders. So it'll be awesome to see.
Yeah, I want to circle it on my counter. We don't know if they're going to get there because they both play some pretty good teams, but Duke and Virginia, January 19th at Duke, they meet up. And that could be a game for number 1 overall. Virginia's got to play a number 9 ranked Florida State and number 10 ranked Virginia Tech to get there. And Duke has to play at Florida State, so it may not be as heated, but that could be an amazing matchup if they get that far. So we'll see what happens.
That could be awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's all I've got for you here, my friend.
Yeah, that's about it for me. Keep an eye out. Everything on the Thunder blog. We're starting to get the blogging back up. Starting to get our podcasting obviously up. Greg and I have to figure out another time to do some blue line icing, a little fuller pod. Matt and I, once the football ends, are gonna get our basketball game back up on it. So keep an eye out for all that. Let us know what you think. Thunder BLG on Twitter, Thunderblog Sports on Instagram, Thunderblog Sports on Facebook, just like the website. Matt, thank you as always. It was a ton of fun.
No problem. Absolutely. Great time.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's going to do it for my man, Matty D. I am the G-Man. Have a good weekend, everybody. And go Birds!